you know, that whole ideology of like respectability politics. So it's like, in order to seem as if you're doing work, you need to look as if you're doing work.
Yeah.
Or look as if you can get this work done. And they're basically saying with black hair, that means we can never be professional, essentially.
But I remember when I first finished uni, when I was your age, 22, back in 2014, and I started working for a PR company in Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
And before I was working, I was totally unaware that I'm being judged on my appearance.
Yeah.
Like, I used to come through in the nicest suit, exactly how you're dressed now. I used to come through to work like that, fresh haircut.
Yeah.
The only thing is that I had a beard. So I had my beard, and one time I cut my beard down, like very low. Like when it gets to the summertime, I tend to cut my beard down. Winter, I have my big fluffy beard.
Yeah.
And I came with my, I cut the beard down, came in the office, and my manager said to me, "Oh, you look smarter."
Smart.
I was like, "What?" What do you mean? And she was like, "Oh yeah, like, you know, like now you've cut your beard down, I think you look so much more presentable." And I was thinking to myself, I swear to God, I had no idea.
So it's not the suit, it's not the hair.
I was wearing a
saying.
nice, I come to the office clean, like, wearing a nice suit. I'm working in Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
The film Wolf of Wall Street came out maybe the year before. I was gassed. I was like, yo, like, it's upwards from here, you know, climbing up the corporate ladder. So I would come clean, you know, and the trimmers are always fresh every week and a half, 2 weeks. My beard, you know, I was just growing it out. Like, I love to grow in my beard. The moment I cut it off, I'm being told that I look smarter. I was thinking, what does that mean? So I dig deeper. I asked my manager, I said to her, so what, I didn't look presentable before? She was like, no, it's just that, you know, like, and then she started like stuttering. And then the conversation just ended there. I went home and really thought about it. And I just thought to myself, so basically, I don't look presentable having a beard. And I've seen a number of men in this building, white men, white Caucasian men with beards. Do they get told the same thing?
Definitely not. That's the thing. I feel like black people, we're hyper visible. So whenever we've come into a certain place, we're always the only ones that are being told to kind of narrow, like, to, you know how it's like to take away our personality. So like we need to lessen our expression a lot of the time, I've noticed. And I don't know why our hair should really affect that, but a lot of the time it just does.
Do you ever ask yourself why? Like, do you question why? I've come into this world, obviously naive, not understanding how things really work. I didn't know having a beard affects my performance in the workplace.
The thing is, it shouldn't. It really doesn't at the end of the day. But I think, you know, that whole ideology of like respectability politics. So it's like, in order to seem as if you're doing work, you need to look as if you're doing work.
Yeah.
Or look as if you can get this work done. And they're basically saying with black hair, that means that we can never be professional, essentially. Because it doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter how, like, as long as, if you have a certain black hairstyle that isn't essentially nothing, because waves, not gonna lie, there's not really much hair there. If you have anything more than that, then there's an expression that can be politicized, and then you're looking at it as if you're associating it with like criminality and all sorts of stigmas around hair, black hair, which are all negative connotations to it, and then it's just...
What are some of the stigmas about Locs that you're aware of?
I know that with Locs, a lot of the time, they view you as a criminal, a lot of the time.
Why?
And
I mean, I'm not asking you why, why things like that, but when you question in your mind, why are Locs attached to criminality? What, like,
that's the thing.
Have you
I don't
gathered
know.
any answers just trying to think about it?
It's weird because I've even done, before I even got Locs myself, I did like my research into it because I wanted to grow it as a form of expression, especially always being told no. certain things. Or if you want to do this, if you want to be successful, you have to cut your hair. So the kind of person I am, I kind of like, nah, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. So that's why I started to grow my hair, but I did more research into it. And a lot of the time, the locks, because you know at the time, dreadlocks, like...
I hate that term as well.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, it was only negative around 19th century BC. That's when, 19th century, the late 19th century, I think the British were fighting the Kenyan warriors. Did a lot of research on this. The British were fighting the Kenyan warriors, and they had locks, essentially. And the locks were seen as inspiring fear in the white beholder. So they were looking at that and they coined the term dreadful locks, and then it became dreadlocks. But then any sort of connotation any connotation with dreadlocks before, because dreadlocks have been around for time, like the Aztecs, a lot of the time, I'm sounding like it's a history lesson.
I know what you're talking about. Like, locks have been around. There's even, when you look at a lot of the Egyptian sculptures and the stuff in the pyramids, you do see that a lot of people in ancient times had locks.
Yeah, and
locks
that's
has been around since the beginning of the time. It's natural. It's your hair growing out and just weaving together naturally. You know, I've got family members that naturally have locks grow out of their head. You know, that's very common. I see that a lot. So, how did it become demonized? And I've just learned something today that it came from fear. Like, literally, they saw the locks and it was seen being like as dreadful. Yeah. I find that interesting.
And it's crazy because before that, locks were seen as like, literally the Egyptians, they used to view it as you have high standing. You're like almost royal, because if you were with the priest, then they'd associate you with having locks. And if you didn't, what's it called? I think it was if you were deemed unworthy, then you'd be publicly desecrated. Like they cut your locks off in front of everyone a lot of the time. So it's really strange to see the whole, like what locks were supposed to be just flipped.
The meaning has been like redefined. Yeah. Like it's now it's got a negative meaning attached to it, whereas it actually comes from something very positive, like a long time ago. Yeah. So you said it was the British that named it dreadlocks. They added the dread to. Yeah. So I feel like it was called dreads before anyway. Okay.
But they definitely made the connotations negative, because I think it was even before then. You know, the whole Rastafarian nature. You know how like that Aunty was talking about how the Rastafarians are demonic because they got snakes on their head, like.
All of you that are putting dreadlocks, you say it's my hair and it's my natural hair, you dreadlocks. No heaven for you. There's a difference I saw with dreadlock, but it was a snake dancing on his head. The Lord Jesus said this is the spirit following all those Rastafarians. That's why you see all of them behave the same. That is the demon.
That whole modern interpretation.
Where does that come from? My assumption is that comes from what you've been told, which was probably passed on from
the white man,
Western cultures. If you get what I mean. Like they made this is my narrative in my head. I don't know where I got this from, but it's probably from a number of things that I've read that I've just collectively put together. But they made you hate your hair. Yeah. And then now you've installed these ideologies about locks. Yeah. And when when you see like younger people with locks, you tell them don't get locks. You know, I'll give you an example. Like my mum, for example, I would never dare to tell her that I want to grow locks, or even my grandma.
Or even now.
I mean, I'm a big man now. So, one day I'll get locks, definitely. But 10 years ago, I could never say, "Oh, Mum, I'm growing locks." Or they would convince me that I'm not going to get a serious job if I get locks.
I don't blame them, because that's what they've been told, and that's how it's basically been. Like, I went to a Nigerian motive the other day with my dad, and my dad's got like a lot of hair as well. I convinced him to grow his hair, so he's had like cane rows for a minute. and stuff. And I went there, and me and him were just stared at like a lot of it, like the whole time, essentially. And I actually
in a negative way.
The thing is, I don't know, because Nigerians stare anyway. But
True.
The way I was asking my dad, I was like, why do people keep like looking at us and stuff? And he was just like, who here looks like us? And he didn't mean it like that, but he was like, who here has hair?
As in, you both stand out.
Yeah, because my dad's like 57.
Okay.
And if you're past 50s and you're Nigerian, you're not gonna be growing your hair like
That's
that.
true.
The max will be maybe a small Afro taper. Even then, it's a bit.
Yeah.
So when I looked around, I didn't see one man, not one man with wave. He was either waves or bald. And that's when I was like, rah, that's a completely different.
Wow.
It's a completely different. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't really take it into consideration, but I guess that's a different generation.
Yeah. Have you had any like family members like speak negatively about your hair?
Oh, yeah. My granddad definitely did not want me to grow my hair.
What was his
when
reasons?
I did. He didn't tell me why. He just said I looked more presentable without hair. And like, even if he has any bit of hair, he'll shave it. His beard, he'll shave it all the time.
See, where does that come from? Honestly, because this is what I mean. It's like, the moment your natural state appears, which is, this has always been my mentality. At the rate that my beard grows and my hair grows, did God really design us in a way where we have to go to the barbers every 2 weeks to get a fresh trim, to look presentable, and cut your beard down constantly, like shaving culture, like literally God designed our body for us to shave all the time with the amount of hair that grows.
Definitely not.
Surely at the rate that hair grows, you're really like, it's fine to keep the hair. But we live in a society where, or maybe, I don't know if it's just a black experience, is it? I don't know, but growing your hair is seen as like a bad thing. Like, it's dirty, it's rough.
You know what it is? Like, I know that it's not just necessarily a black thing. I know that a lot of the time with long hair comes more maintenance, and a lot of the time people can't maintain it. But it's never seen as you're a criminal. Like, the stigmas with it are never as negative with a black person compared to a white person with long hair or...
That's true.
Do you get what I'm saying? So there's definitely that there, but even a lot of the time they'll use the Bible and be like, yeah, you need to da-da-da-da-da.
Where does it say that in the Bible?
It doesn't say that in the Bible.
Why
there have even been like, you shouldn't trim your sides or something like that. I think in Leviticus it says you shouldn't trim your sides.
You know what? That's the verse that I always held on to, that you shouldn't trim your sides. So I was just like, so it's fine to grow my hair then?
It is, but they like to weaponize the Bible and make it a cultural thing as opposed to spiritual, but it's not the case.
And this is the thing, like, even growing up, when I read a Bible verse like, you shouldn't cut the corners of your head, like, I'll just be like, so why am I being told that growing an Afro or wanting to grow like my beard is a negative thing? It doesn't make any sense.
Because it doesn't suit the narrative. That's literally the only reason. It doesn't. And the thing is, you know, Samson, do you get, like, Samson, it literally says, depending on the definition, depending on the
edition. The version of the Bible.
The version of the Bible, exactly. I think in NLT, I think it says Locs, and then in the other ones it says like braids. So I don't know how you can twang that and make it seem as if it's not, as if he didn't have dreads of some sort or braids of some sort.
Do you use that in your defense, like, knowing that? Because that's a very good point to bring up for anyone that tries to challenge you, that your hair is evil.
I used to, but now I don't really. I've gotten so past the argument to the point where I don't really answer to it. So if you have anything to say, I'll just be like, fair enough. That's just not my view. Maybe we follow a different God, but the God that I know is not, doesn't care about how much hair you have. Do you know what I'm saying?
And that's the reality. That's the reality, honestly.